Hi guys, my name's John and I'm a qualified veterinarian and biologist. And today we're talking about career paths into working with monkeys in the wild in Colombia. My guest is Dr Xyomara Carretero-Pinzon, a researcher with the Zoque project. So what can you expect in the next half hour? This is not a natural history documentary, nor is it a behind-the-scenes making-of type of film about how wildlife documentaries are produced. Instead, what we'll present is a possible career path if you want to work with monkeys. It's an interview in which I ask the questions I wish I'd asked 35 years ago when starting my career. And before we go any further, I would like to say thank you to my subscribers. Without you, there would be no channel. Working with monkeys and living the dream looks like this. Xyomara, how would you describe primate conservation in the Colombian Llanos today? Are there any breeding programs in captivity? Is all the work done in the field? And what about things like industries around primates in Colombia? Are they used in medicine and pharmacology, for example?
Okay, in terms of the general research of primatology in the Colombian Llanos is still at the beginning. There is not much research. In terms of the use of primates in captivity, there are not captivity facilities in this part of the country and no research in captivity in this part of the country. Most of the species in the area are not used for pharmaceutical or any kind of medical research. Most of the species used for that are in the Amazon, really. Probably in the 70s, when there was exports from Colombia to the US in terms of squirrel monkeys and nocturnal monkeys, probably some of the animals could be collected in this area, but we don't know really. Most of the information we have is from the Amazon. So that in terms of that. In terms of the general research, there is a lot of gaps. We don't have many researchers working in the Colombian Llanos and in general in the Orinoco region of Colombia. Most of the gaps are especially around the Orinoco River and in the transition area between the Orinoco and Amazonian areas of Colombia.
And Xyomara, for people who don't know, today's subject is primates of Colombia. What do you do?
Okay, basically what I have done up to now is I done ecological studies and behavioral studies of Colombian primates, focus mainly in the 5 species that are in the Piedmont of Colombian Llanos. So red howler monkeys, Colombian squirrel monkeys, black-capped capuchins, broomback night monkeys, and the ornate titi monkeys. And I have done also in the past 2 years, I've been working on the distribution of the ornate titi monkey, that is an endemic primate species for this region, and the Colombian squirrel monkey that up to now is a subspecies of the squirrel monkeys from South America, from the Humboldt squirrel monkey. There are some studies that say that probably it's a different species, but there are more studies to be done on that topic. But our subspecies, the subspecies in the region, is quite different from the other ones, from the more Amazonian ones, and are endemic of the country. So those are kind of important at this moment. With the nocturnal monkeys, mostly we have done nocturnal census, just to determine densities. With all the other species we have done in the past with help of students, research in terms of the ecology, so what they eat, how they move, how big are their territories. With the broomback monkeys, we also had students that analyzed the vocalizations of that species, for example, and basic information about diet of all the species. So those are like the main topics that we have been working on over the past 20 years.
And Xyomara, do you do it for personal satisfaction, professional recognition, or the money?
I will say personal satisfaction mainly. I love to spend time in the forest with the monkeys. That is what makes my life purposeful. There is not much money in this, so the money is not a factor at all.
And Xyomara, how did your career develop?
Well, I study biology. When I was studying biology in the university where I start, they have field station, and we can do one semester in the field. And there were two options, mainly study birds or study monkeys. So I choose monkeys because I love mammals more than birds, basically. And my first work was just looking at red holler babies. And I fell in love with them. And after that, it was just that. I guess I just fell in love with them, basically. After I finished that the small project, it was 6 month small project in the forest following the red collar monkeys. Then I did my undergrad thesis with monkeys again. I did a master's focus on ecology, where again I study monkeys. I studied the Colombian squirrel monkeys in a very big forest in a national park. And then I did a small project in a farm in the Colombian Llanos, and that was the beginning of my project. I did my master and my doctorate thesis in that area as part of this big project.
Brilliant. Xyomara, I have to ask, what is your most treasured possession in your field kit?
I would say my binoculars is my main tool.
What skills do you need to monitor primates in the field?
I will say a lot of patience. Also be very observant, be quiet, calm, very persistent. Following monkeys is not always easy, so you have to be persistent to get the results you want and to get the data you need for your studies.
And Xyomara, how can new entrants into field primatology and primate conservation, indeed, acquire these skills?
I think the main thing we need to have is curiosity for nature and love for the animals. That will motivate you to do the rest, to go and study. It's not always necessary that you do a undergrad on biology. or ecology or zoology. I will say that the main thing that a new person in primatology needs is curiosity and love for the animals. The rest of the things can be acquired by studying, but if you have motivation and if you have curiosity, that can help you achieve whatever you want with primate conservation. It's not necessary biology or a zoology background. I have friends who work in primate conservation and they are not biologists or zoologists. So the undergrad shouldn't be an obstacle. You can do a good master and a good PhD and then be a primatologist, basically.
Which brings me beautifully onto my next question. To do what you do, Xyomara, do you need a PhD, or is a master's degree or even a bachelor's degree enough? Or are there positions where you don't need a degree at all?
Um, I will say to be a good primatologist, you need at least a master. That will give you enough rigorosity to do this kind of job. Um,
Insects.
but if you're not going to be a university professor as part of the primatologist, I wouldn't say that you need the PhD. The PhD is more a requirement if you are going to teach in a university, wherever in the world you are. To be a field primatologist, you don't really need the PhD. A master, maybe yes. A good undergrad, yes, especially if your undergrad is in biology, that will give you a lot of additional skills in terms of understanding interactions with other animals, interactions with plants, and that kind of information that you get in your bachelor. Um, but apart from that, I think is also a lot of motivation, reading a lot. You need to read and love reading a lot. And I will say for us in Latin America, reading in English is important because most of the science is in English. So we need to be open to read in English and able to do it and be willing to do it.
And among people who want to consider this as a career, is there a lot of interest in Colombia?
Times, all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Good.
Usually, uh, there is an initial good interest in general in people who likes mammals, but because of the field work is not an easy one and it requires time and persistence and a lot of patience, not all the people find that part of the job like very good or what they wanted for life, I guess.
And are there qualifications and courses in conservation biology and in primatology available in country in Colombia?
Not a specific courses. Sometimes over the years, there has been some primatological courses given by some of the main professors here. Also, a few times the Colombian Association of Primatologists has given a few courses. So those ones has been available, not constantly, not all the time, but in some years, there have been some. Mm, I guess mostly in Colombia is just that you contact one of the primatologists, especially the ones that are at universities, and from there you kind of start in this path.
What issues would you like to see addressed in primate conservation over the next 5 years?
Specifically for the Colombian Llanos?
Yes.
Okay, I will say I would like to see more collaborative work with the production areas. We have cattle ranching, we have palm oil plantations, we have petrol exploitations in the whole area. And I will say we still need to work a lot with those sectors. I've been working with the cattle ranchers for a while already. Um, Working with the palm oil plantations is more difficult, is much more difficult to access to them. So I would say I would love for them to be more open to work with biologists in general. Like they have been kind of open for certain areas, but not for primatology at least. Um, and I guess a little bit more of involvement of all the development projects companies because they affect a lot of the species and a lot of the habitat of the species that we have in the region.
And looking into the future across that time span of 5 years, um, what jobs or career opportunities do you think those actions might generate, Xiomara?
Well, I hope it generates at least a more expertise type of jobs in terms of the environmental impact, because most of the environmental impact jobs at the moment are too general and kind of overlook a little bit the primates, and sometimes I don't think they pay enough attention to the primates. So I guess that could be something there in terms of jobs.
Um,
Maybe something in terms of the sociology and the social part of those projects combined with the primates also could be possible job. Something about the interactions between humans in those areas around projects and around productive activities, and the primates is something that could also have some opportunities in the future.
where do our knowledge gaps lie with primate conservation and ecology in the Colombian Llanos?
We still have a lot of gaps in terms of the broomback night monkey distribution. That is one big gap. We don't know exactly the precise distribution for that species. With other of the species in the Orinoco region, we still have a few gaps in terms of the uh, one of the species of spider monkeys. I can't remember right now which one is. What is the name in English? The species is Ateles belzebuth. We have like parts of the distribution of that species in this area, not only in the Amazon transition. And also there are still a few gaps in terms of the distribution of the woolly monkey, the subspecies that we have in this part of the country. And in terms of ecology, we don't know much about the broomback night monkeys in general terms, in terms of the ecology. So we have a lot of gaps with that species in particular. With the ornate titty monkeys, we still need a little bit more information about the diet. We only have information for six months period in a year instead of a complete year. And because the phenology of this forest is very variable over a year, it would be very good if we can cover at least 1 year. Also, in terms of the ornate titty monkeys, we still need data in terms of home ranges, daily distance, that is basic ecology data. For the squirrel monkeys, in general terms, the ecological part, we kind of know it a little bit good in well terms. Um, and we are working at this year. We are working on the distribution of that subspecies. So I think that one probably is one that is better covered. We still need information about conflicts and human-wildlife interaction related with the black-capped capuchins. I receive a lot of reports of crop raiding, and working on solutions for that is something that we still need to work on here. And the red howler, well known in this part, there is a lot of undergrad thesis with that species in particular. So they are kind of the ones that are in better conditions in terms of knowledge.
About the literature, are there books or particular scientific journals that interested people should be reading?
Well, I always recommend the books for Colombian primates in English and Spanish from Dr. Thomas Deffler is kind of the reference book for primates in the country still. um, and usually neotropical primates, International Journal of Primatology, American Journal of Primatology, Primate Conservation are the journals in which most of the Latin Americans publish a lot of the information we produce. So those are good journals to start reading information in general about primates. I would say those ones. There is a couple of like reference kind of books that are more general and more for the whole primatology. One of those is a classic. It's a book from Flegel. I think the book is from 1990. It has really basic information about bones, physiology, basic taxonomy of primates is very good reference book. Taxonomy has varied a lot over the years, especially in the past 20 years. The neotropical primate taxonomy has varied a lot. And there are more recent books focusing on those ones, at least. But I would say Flegel is still a very good book um, of reference, at least for general knowledge about primates.
And what about the conference circuit, Xiomara? Are there conferences on Colombian primates?
Um, we had in the past a couple of conferences. Mostly we have a symposium in the mastozoology conference, our national conference for mastozoology. And we also have sometimes a primate symposium in the what is called zoology conference, the Colombian Zoology Conference. So those two usually have at least a symposium about primate species.
Mhm. And for your project, Xiomara, do you take on foreign volunteers?
Yes, not very often, but yes, I had a few foreign volunteers in the past. Usually they stay with me between 1 week and a month. That's the usual time. And mostly we do some census kind of work.
Can you suggest a research project for somebody who wants to study primates?
I would say uh, any question about ecology in general, like what is the diet of species or what is the home range use or habitat use of a species. That is a very good basic type of topic for undergrad kind of thesis. I would love to see more theses using landscape ecology, especially because I am in an area that is completely fragmented. So including landscape ecology concepts combined with the primatology, I think is something that can give us a lot of management strategies and management actions. That is what we need to conserve the primate species in this area.
If you could go back in time to your younger self, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self just starting your career?
That's a tricky question. Um, Let me see. Hmm, Maybe nothing. I mean, I think I've been lucky enough to have done most of the things that I wanted in my life and with my work. Um, I will probably give myself a little bit of better finance kind of advice more than in terms of the jobs that I taken over the past years, but not in terms of the topics I choose to study. I think the way I have started with behavior and general ecology in a big forest and then going to a very fragmented area and then just focusing on the landscape part of those areas and how we can manage the monkeys to persist in those areas has given me a really nice way of looking on primate conservation. So I'm quite happy with that part of my life.
That's brilliant. Xiomara, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Mm, just don't think too much. If you are really passionate about monkeys, just jump in. A lot of things kind of fall in place with time. And it's always good to reach to people and ask questions. Be very proactive. I think that is something one of my professors told me a long time ago. That is one of the things that give you more when you're learning. Be proactive. And I think when I receive students, that is something I look on the students too. The proactivity that they have, how much questions they do, how much they read is kind of what made them really good students. So I will say just read a lot and make a lot of questions.
Brilliant. Xiomara, you are a field primatologist based in Colombia, studying primates, the primate community in the Colombian Llanos. Thank you so much for being on the Practical Animal Channel. Dr. Xyomara Carretero-Pinzon.
Thank you, John, for those very interesting questions. I really enjoy it.